It is a huge honor today to be interviewing Rick Garofolo, who's been doing dental business consulting for 20 years, ever since his wife graduated from dental school. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
So your wife forced you into the dental industry. Is that what I'm hearing?
She absolutely did. Yeah, she bought a dental practice, and I had been in business previous to that. She bought the practice. We were working our separate businesses. She came home one day and said, I don't understand what's going on. I'm working harder and harder and harder and not making any more money than I was when I was an associate. So I said, I don't know anything about dentistry, but I know business. Let me come in, take a look at your numbers, and see what I can figure out. Monday morning, I walked in at 8:30. Tuesday morning, after reviewing everything, I fired her front desk staff and office manager, and I took over. I taught myself how to do claims. I taught myself the codes. I taught myself everything. Spent 6 months by myself doing everything. Hired a staff, trained them to do it my way. And long story short, we had a friend who's an orthodontist who said, hey, you have a general dentist friend who needs some help. Will you go look? She was going through a divorce. I said, sure, I'll take a look, see what I can figure out. Went to help her, talked to her for a couple hours, and that began my consulting career. So went pretty quick, and I've been doing it ever since. One of my favorite things to do naturally is work with dentists and teach people and talk about business. I love business.
Okay, so 20 years in the making, 5,600 kids just graduated from dental school last month.
Right.
What changes have you seen in the dental industry 20 years ago when you started helping your wife to today? Meaning, if your wife just graduated today and you started this all over, what would be the difference of this starting a dental office, your wife starting a dental office today versus 20 years ago?
One of the big things that we deal with every day, that I deal with both with my wife still and with all my clients, the biggest thing that we're dealing with right now is insurances, the regulatory issues that come along with it, and making the schedule work to be profitable while working on a PPO plan or even an HMO fee schedule. A lot of dentists, 20 years ago, the norm was you saw one patient, your fee for service was norm. Your fee for service, maybe it took a couple insurances, but it wasn't that big of a deal. You could see one patient an hour, one patient every hour and a half, and still maintain profitability. Unfortunately, now it's not like that. I actually just had a conversation yesterday with a group of dental students who had just graduated, and they said, what should we do? And I said, learn how to work out of 2 or 3 rooms. Learn how to jump around and learn how to help more people in a day than you're used to. Because that's A, how you're going to maintain profitability, and B, see more patients, which that's what it's all about, is seeing the patients and maintaining a profitable business. They have to go hand in hand. And a lot of dentists don't understand that.
Okay, you've been a dental consultant for 20 years. What would you say to the guy thinking, maybe I should drop all my insurance? Maybe I should drop all my HMOs and PPOs. Maybe I'll do just Delta only, but other than Delta indemnity insurance, just drop all PPOs. What would you say to that advice?
You have to look at your demographics. There are people that I know that, we have conversations on the Dental Town message boards every day about this. And there are some people who can do it and can make it work. And there are other offices that, based on the demographic of where they're located and the people in the area, it would put them out of business. You have to know your demographics. You have to know the people that you're serving. There's a big difference between a dental office in Beverly Hills and a dental office in the middle of Kansas. You have to know your demographic. My suggestion would be don't do anything until you know who you're serving and you know who you're trying to reach. You know what your patient load is. Because if you don't know if you're 95% insurance and you say we're going to drop it today and move forward, you may have a struggle ahead of you. You have to change everything. You're going to have to change the way you've marketed. You're going to have to change the way you present your office. You may have to add technology that people see as being a valuable service to pay out of pocket for. If you're going to maintain the same thing, and one of the scariest things for people is change. I deal with it every day in my clients' offices. When we're going to change something, they get so scared of change, they don't want to do it. And then if you're not growing, you're just going out of business and you just don't know it yet. You have to be continually adapting to the new things. You've seen how much new technology since you started practicing. And people love new technology. Anybody who says, oh, I don't care if you're taking a film x-ray or a digital x-ray, either they don't know the difference or they just don't understand it. And that's really our job, is to educate them on that, is what we're doing. But my suggestion for dropping insurances, absolutely, without question, know your demographic. Some people can do it, some people can't.
So right now there's this dentist driving to work, and she's wondering, hey, buddy, I'm in this town. What would be some red flags of saying you're more in a PPO market? And what would be some red flags say you might be in a market where you don't even need insurance? Is there any rules of thumb or generalizations you can make to get this person thinking about their demographics?
It's hard to make generalizations, but the big thing I would say, you have to look at annual household income. You have to look at the number of children that the average household has. We look at the value of each property on specific mail carrier routes when we're doing an analyzation.
Do you do these analyzation?
We do. The analysis.
Okay.
Yeah,
analysis. So if this woman driving to work wants to do analysis with you, how would she contact you, and what would that cost?
Well, the prices vary. Normally we start anywhere from $400 to $600 just to kind of start, and we're going to pull a full demographic on the county, the town, and the metro area that they may be in. They can contact us naturally. Our website is www.practicemechanic.com. That's how they can get a hold of us, or they can call us on our toll-free number, which is on our site. But
what's that toll-free number? And furthermore, don't give toll-free numbers to dentists. God dang, if you don't have a smartphone and you can't make a long-distance phone call, get rid of it. I have dentists email me asking me what my toll-free number is so they can call me and ask a question. I'm like, are you out of your mind?
I know.
What is your phone number?
It's 888-367-1322.
Say it again.
888-367-1322.
And your email's Rick at Practice Mechanic. And by the way, to my listeners, he doesn't pay me for that. This is not a commercial. These podcasts are free, and there's no money changing hands. Don't think anything like that. But so if this person's driving to work, she can email you and say, okay, I have a practice in 85044. Hey, that'd be a great thread. Do one on me. I'm 85044. I'm Phoenix, Arizona. Everybody here calls it Ahwatukee. But that would be great. Would you mind doing that for me? I'm selfishly start a thread because I started mine in 87, and in 87 it's a different neighborhood in 2015, and the new apartment complexes are now poor people. You know what I mean? The whole neighborhood's changing. Well, you knew it was going down when they let me move in. Whenever you let a drunk Irish guy move in your neighborhood, you know the neighborhood's going to hell. And but yeah, I would love to see that for my own, because I'm 52 and I often wonder how it's changed from 87 to 2015. And I hope my goal, the average boy born, lives to be 74. So I'm thinking I got 22 more years. I would love to practice the last day I was alive. It'd be interesting. I would like to see it. So when you so what is your so when I worked all day yesterday, and my average emergency is a toothache, and a quarter of them are going to get an extraction, and 3/4 is going to root canal and build up and crown. When someone calls you, what's your average dentist toothache? When your average client calls you, because what I'm trying to fill out here is, there's about 7,000 dentists listening to this, but they're all alone. This person's driving to work, and she's wondering, what set of problems are you dealing with? So she can hear, are these my problems? Is this, and then what solutions are you doing for them? So the average The average Joe Monkey dentist calls you, Scott. Why are they calling you?
Usually they're calling me because either it's one of two things. They're not happy with their staff or they're not happy with their production. They're it. There's a couple different parts to business. You have a book did it launch yet?
I'm pre-selling it. It launches September 6th.
That's all about what business really is. And again, this isn't a commercial, but you really did hit the nail on the head, because there's a couple important parts to business, and two of them are your processes and your people. And they're the problems. People either aren't producing enough for one reason or another. It could be scheduling, it could be anything, or their people.
Okay, so let's focus first on people, then we'll come back to production and process. What is the average staff person problem? They're calling you up because their staff's driving them crazy. And I've always said that, when I went to college, I thought if you figured out geometry, calculus, trig, and physics, and chemistry, and biochemistry, and you got A's and all that, that'd be the answers to the universe. And now I've practiced 28 years. I haven't used any single thing they taught me in the first 5 years of college, not ever once. And now I tell my boys, I said, if you figure out people, how they think, what motivates them, what leads them, what gives them purpose, how do people, I'd rather get an A in people and fail every science class known to man. That's the secret to the universe. So this person, again, they're all alone. So they're thinking, well, everybody has this staff problem. Everybody has this staff. What are the complexities of the dentist-staff relationship that you're hearing?
The biggest problem that people have is having a team mentality. Every time I get a phone call from a dentist who's having a staffing issue, they're having a problem because my two front desk girls don't get along, or my hygienist and my assistant don't get along, or these people don't get along. I can't get them on the same page. And, everybody has their own personality. Everybody has their own goals and their hopes and their problems at home and, things going on in their life. And that's probably the hardest thing that we face, is dealing with, depending on the size of your office, it can be 4, 5, 10, 20 different people and those 20 different personalities. So for me, the big thing that I try and do is get everybody on the same page working towards a single goal. I take the time. I don't know if you can see the background here. I'm in a hotel. In Columbus, Ohio this week, working with a client, doing a very hands-on practice takeover kind of situation. And that's one of the things that I'm doing every night. I'm taking one staff member out to dinner. The staff member and myself, one-on-one, so I can learn about who they are personally. A lot of dentists say, don't get involved. I don't want to know. There's a lot of things you don't want to know from a professional standpoint. But you have to know what motivates those people. And the only way to learn that is to talk to them. You can have a hygienist who is all about the bonus and hitting our goals. And then you can have another hygienist or an assistant or a front desk person who just wants to come in and be appreciated. They don't need the money. They don't want the money. They're not motivated by money, which I personally don't understand, but they're not. And, everybody has a different motivation. So you have to figure out what it is for each individual person. Take whichever path you want to take, but we all have to get to the same destination. And that's the problem with people, is getting them all. You're never going to get them on the same path. You just have to get them all to the same spot at the end of the day. Because that's all that matters, is whatever your goals are, that you're hitting them.
Okay, so now, is this your standard programming? Is your standard consulting package? You go down there and the first week you're in the office and you take members at dinner at night, or is this a special case, or is
this is a pretty standard one.
And what is your standard consulting package?
Our standard consulting package is what I would say to be probably one of the normal practice management consulting packages. But I hate to say normal because everybody does things a little different. I've spent almost 20 years now learning different things that work in systems and actually trying them out in dental offices all over the country. And, like I said, for me, the big thing is creating a team environment, definitely you need those systems in place, all the
But
things that everybody says.
But specifically, is your standard package you go in there for 1 week hands-on, and then what, you come back like 1 day a month for a year? Or how does it look like?
Well, we have kind of two different levels of consulting. We have our normal practice management consulting level, which that's exactly what it is. We're in there for a week, observing, watching what's going on the first 2 or 3 days, taking the dentist and their spouse or whoever it may be out to dinner to talk about their goals. And then, we move on. We work with the employees. We work with the staff. We're observing for a week. Then the following month, we actually come back for another full week. And we do some training. We institute some changes. We put some monitoring and some spreadsheet tracking into place. And then we're back between 1 and 3 days every month for the rest of the year.
And how much does a year package like that cost?
I do month to month. I have never been a big fan of you have to pay for a year all at one time or commit to a year.
So how much is a month?
$2,500 a month.
So it's a $2,500 a month program.
$2,500 a month program for that one. And then I have the next level up, which is actually what I'm here in Columbus doing now, is what we call our practice takeover, which actually has been very successful since we introduced it last year. We don't get a monthly retainer. We get a percentage of the net from the office, and we manage everything. The dentist basically comes in, does dentistry, and goes home. We manage the staff. We do,
and that's called the practice takeover.
Exactly.
So you will take over a practice.
Absolutely.
In perpetuity.
In perpetuity. Again, that's a month to month as well.
And
I want to continue to earn your business.
How long have you been doing that?
We've been doing that. We introduced it at the beginning of 2014, and we now have 8 clients who are on the practice takeover permanently.
And are these in you're in a suburb? What is it? Birdsboro, Pennsylvania. Right. Is that outside of Philly?
Philadelphia. Yep.
Did they ever get a football team?
The Philly?
Yeah, I heard they're thinking about getting a football. No, our message board manager Howard Goldstein is he's from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. He's a crazy Eagles fan. Right. I mean, and anybody obviously, if they were intelligent, would be an Arizona Cardinals fan. And I've tried to explain that to him. He just doesn't get it. But I want to nail down. So you've had 8 offices, but are these mainly in Philly, in a certain area? Are they some urban, some rural? What are some guys like? Dude, I'm in Salina, Kansas. I mean, what is do these 8 practices have any demographic in common?
They absolutely are all over the board. I have one who is in Beverly Hills. His zip code, when we ran the comparison, his demographic search, his zip code is 90210. And then I have one, like I said, I'm in a suburb of Columbus, Ohio now. I have one in a suburb of Philadelphia, one in Seattle. They are really spread throughout the country. One is not in Seattle. It's on the Puget Sound.
I want to go back to specifics because I want to go back to people because dentists always, I mean, and I'm a dentist, so I get dentists because I am one. I mean, the sad thing about dentists is we're just all saying, I mean, if you told me I would never do a root canal again, I'd probably start crying. When people say you want to go play golf, I mean, I'd rather pour full wisdom teeth. And I could read about root canals, fillings, crowns, bone grafting, implant. I get all that. And that's where our nose is. And when you tell them, when you start talking about people, I know what they're going to say. They say, I don't, it's all fluff. It's all fluffy. You're talking fluff. I want to know real. So I want to go specific to people. When you come into an office, dentists are always wondering about how do you know if you can fix Margaret or you need to fire Margaret. So when you come into office that first week and they introduce you to your team and you go to dinner with Margaret, how does your thinker work when you're meeting the staff members, whether it's receptionists, assistants? What are your cues to say this person's got to go? And I assume 95 times out of 10 out of 100 we're dealing with women, right?
Most of the time, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, almost every dental office you walk into, mine's a rare dental office. I have a male office manager and 2 male dental assistants, but almost every one of my offices I go into, they're usually all women because the dentist is a woman, or they're all women and 1 man because the man's dentist. But what is your go-to thinking analysis of whether this person's attitude can be turned around or she's got to go?
My biggest pet peeve, the biggest identifier to me on if somebody's going to be able to stay or if they're going to have to go is if they say, we've always done it that way more than twice. I give them 2 times. But if a third time you say, we've always done it this way, that's somebody who doesn't want to evolve, who doesn't want to change, who doesn't want to learn anything new. You know, people get very complacent in where they are. I understand being afraid of change. I understand having that fear of what's going to happen if it doesn't work. But at the same time, if you're calling me, there's a reason you're not happy with where you are. And if you think things are going to change and your position is going to improve by not changing anything, they're the people that I can't help.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you a delicate question because you make your money from dentists. Dentists pay your bills.
Right.
Okay?
Absolutely.
So I'm going to throw you under a bus right now. How do you make your money, or how do you make up your mind when you realize, your staff's pretty normal. They're actually good. Dude, you're a freak. How do you handle that situation when you're listening to this dentist blaming everything on Obama and the Greece default and the Chinese stock market and Bill Cosby and the guy from Subway, and you're just like, dude, look in the mirror. You're a freak. You're the reason all the staff comes and goes. You're the reason the patient. How do you handle that situation? Do you just turn them down as clients, or do you try to work with that person?
You look them in the face and say, you're the problem. Nobody is beyond repair. But we need to fix these processes. We need to fix these thought processes in your head that most of the time, honestly, I mean, you're a dentist, you know dentists. A lot of dentists can be very self-limiting. I don't think I can do it. I can't handle more than 2 patients. I can't see more than 1 an hour. And it's very limiting. It's a self-limiting belief that you need to get over. I'm a big believer in psychology. Actually, my daughter is on her way to the University of Kansas to major in psychology because I talk about it so much.
That's one of the best universities out there. I'm from Wichita, Kansas. KU is one of the most amazing. It's one of the biggest hidden diamonds out there. I mean, it's 35,000 student body. That is an amazing university.
Yeah, I was actually there last week with her for orientation.
In Lawrence, Kansas?
Right in Lawrence.
Yeah.
And it was, she loved the campus. Everything is great. She's looking forward to it, and she's learning the rock chalk chant. So we'll see how she does. But, I'm a big believer in that. I actually, just today, this afternoon, before our appointment here today, I went for a walk with one of the front desk girls at the office that I'm working with this week. And we just went for a walk along a hiking trail next to a river and talked about all the things going on. And, she was harboring so much anger and resentment, and she had so many preconceived notions based on her life experiences that she was actually affecting the practice. And you have to be able to help people as a boss, as a business owner, as an employer. You have to be able to help people on some level get past these things because everybody has them. She was a single mother, didn't have a lot of money to raise her kids. Her ex-husband never helped. She was angry. She was upset. And when she'd see a single mom come into the office, we have to give them a discount. We have to give them a break. Don't worry about charging them for a missed appointment, which I hate anyway, but they did it until we changed it. We have to do this. We have to do that. We have to help her. We have to do this for free. We have to do that for free. Meanwhile, I spoke with the single mother she wanted to give a discount to yesterday, who was doing very, very well selling advertising on the radio station. She's the #1 sales rep. She's making 4 times as much money as the dentist made last year, and we're giving her a discount because she's a single mother, because of a preconceived psychological.
I want to go back to there's going to be about 7,000 individual dentists listening to this. The dentists all believe they walk on water. They're perfect. It's always somebody else. But I want you to start talking to this dentist right now. What are some red flag examples you could be telling this dentist right now that he's part of the problem? What are red flags that, dude, you need to change? You can't blame everything on everyone else.
If their initial reaction to every single problem that comes up is, I need to fire somebody, I need to scream, I need to yell, I need to holler, I need to get upset, somebody needs to fix this, why does this happen, why does my staff always do this? You know, when I hear somebody said, my staff always does this, it's not the staff. If they always do it, you should expect it. You have to change. You have to set the priorities. You have to set the goals. You set the expectation. You have to do that. You know, when you come to me and say, they always do this, they always do that, for me, that's a huge red flag. And that's what I would say to people who are listening to this. When you talk to people, do you say they or do you say we? Because that's a huge part of it. You're the owner. You have all the liability. They can walk away and get new jobs. You have all the risk. There's no doubt. But you have to still be part of the team. You know, so many people elevate themselves above their staff and say, I know what I'm doing. I'm the dentist. I went to school for this. I don't know very many dentists. There are a few out there who are smart, who are not only DDSs, but also MBAs and took the time to learn about business. But there's a lot of people who don't. There was just a post on Dental Town, a guy settling on a practice 2 weeks from now. And he said, I don't know what to do for payroll. Somebody said, oh, well, there's a payroll company. Oh, I never heard of that before. And he's going to be a business owner in 2 weeks. And he didn't know there were companies out there that did your payroll for you.
But I gotta beef with you though. I'm a big fan of your posts. You got a couple hundred posts on Dental Town, and thank you for that. I am a big fan, and it's an honor that you're on the show. But when you're talking about, I want to talk about tracking success using a board. My pet peeve with that is what you just said. That why does Soft Dent, Dentrix, and EagleSoft, why do they not do payroll? Why don't they track all this stuff on your board? I mean, could you imagine going into any business and they didn't, and their insurance and billing and customer CRM wasn't connected to payables, receivables, and profitability?
I have been trying to talk to the developers of those practice management softwares for years to get some type of integration.
So you agree?
Some type of, oh, absolutely. I think it's ridiculous that as a business owner, you can't go into your practice management software and say, okay, I did a crown on Sally. How much money did I make?
I know. How is this 2015? I can remember when I was 6 years old watching Neil Armstrong land on the moon. Are you shitting me? And you can't do payroll? And furthermore, when you do payroll, who cares if an accounting service does the payroll or your grandmother does the payroll? You're still not figuring a payroll as a percent of your labor, your cost, your collections. That you're paying a hygienist $40 an hour and she's billing out $100 an hour. Where's the report to show you that you're losing money on a clean examination? How come when a doctor is looking at a PPO schedule, he can't enter the fee schedule and it says, well, you take 1 hour to do an MOD composite, and this fee for that is $280, and your operatory just for rent, mortgage, equipment, bill, more computer, insurance, everything is $285 an hour. So every time you do a filling, you'll just take a $5 bill and go shred it. Most dentists would say, well, hell, a filling is hard. It's hard to do an awesome MOD direct composite. I'm not going to do that and throw $5 away. But I think half the consultants are in business today because the Dentrix, EagleSoft, SoftDent. You might as well be Steve. You're somewhere between Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles when you're using those systems. To call them a management information system means you don't even know what the word management means.
Absolutely. And that's, I do agree with you. I think that's why there are so many consultants in business today, because it's very difficult. You're a busy guy. If you were on your own and a solo practitioner and had just the office staff and no other help, you wouldn't have time to spend the hours and hours and hours a week developing the spreadsheets and filling them
I
out.
know.
And, all the things that we do kind of behind the scenes and automatically to generate that one report that shows everything together.
Which software developers have you talked to, or which systems?
I've talked to very much EagleSoft. I'm actually an EagleSoft trainer. So,
what is their response to you?
All the time. It's not viable. The profitability wouldn't be there. We can't compete with QuickBooks. I don't understand it. Make a bridge that actually works.
Dude, you can cut and paste accounting software off the internet. All that code has already been written. I mean, accounting was invented 500 years ago. There hasn't been anything new in accounting, just like there hasn't been anything new in geometry or algebra or addition or any of that stuff. But talk to us about your board. You're into the board. Talk about your board.
We do. When I started out, I owned an advertising agency and PR firm. I took a lot of different sales training courses to sell advertising and to get new clients, and I actually became a Sandler certified sales trainer, which Sandler is one of the big sales systems out there. I went into a number of different businesses to do sales training. One of the normal industries that I got booked in was car dealerships. If you walk into the office of a sales manager at a car dealership, they have what they call the board, which is a big white dry erase board that has every salesperson's name and what they've sold for the month so far, what they sold last year, all their information toward meeting their goal. We do the same thing in a dental office. We put up a big 6-foot by 4-foot whiteboard in the conference room or break room or wherever, and we put everybody's production up there every day. We put what our collections were, because we're all working towards the same goal. There's a lot of dentists who say, I don't want them to know what I collect. I don't want people to know what my totals are. I don't want people to know what I produced. Whether they think, they're going to think I make too much money, or they're going to not think I make enough. But when you have a team, you share that information. We put that up on the board, and it keeps everybody's mind on what it should be on. So I can look at that board and know I hit 106% of my goal yesterday. I hit 87% of my goal yesterday. The practice management softwares, they all have it in their calendar, in their appointment book. It's in there if you look at them month at a view, month at a glance, or you look, in different places. They all have them. But this really puts it out in front of everybody. It makes it real. I'm amazed when we go into an office and we put up a board, how often the people will run back during the day to look at the board. What did I do? I only need 8 more hundred. I only need 6 more hundred. I only need another $25. I really got to get that person to get those bite wings at the end of the day, because not only have they not had them in 2 years, but that'll help me hit my goal. It brings that to the forefront of everybody's mind. So you put up that board and you share that information.
Okay, so do you are you a believer in the morning huddle? Do you go over the board at the morning huddle? Are you
Absolutely.
What percent of your offices do you recommend a morning huddle?
I want it at 100% of them.
Okay, go through the mechanics of that. Is that 10 minutes, 5 minutes, half an hour? Does it involve the board? Who gives it? The office manager, the dentist?
Usually the office manager will give it. If the practice doesn't have an office manager, then we have whoever is assigned to be the scheduling coordinator, the person in charge of the schedule. Because she or he is going to be the one who's going to say, listen, this is what we did yesterday. You hit your goal. You hit your goal. You were this much short. We need to do this. We had a couple holes. Here's the reasons why. Here's what's happening today. What do you need from me? You are $200 short. Do I need to mention to somebody about fluoride? Do I need to mention to somebody about sealants? What do I need to do to help you treat your patients better? I'm not suggesting we sell things that people don't need. I hate when people think that. You should never sell something somebody doesn't need. But I truly believe that half of our job is helping people get out of their own way and convincing them to get what we know is in their best interest. So many dentists say, well, I told him he needed a crown. He didn't want to do it. And now, guess what? It's 6 months later, the tooth is broken, and now he needs an extraction and a partial, or he's going to need an implant. An ounce of prevention and a pound to cure, it's the same thing. And we have to help people get out of their way. But at the morning huddle, that's when you discuss what needs to be done. Who needs what?
Okay,
what needs to be done?
More specifics.
All goal-oriented.
More specifics. After the morning huddle, are you a fan of everybody wiring up to like Motorola walkie-talkies, or are you not a big fan of that? What are your thoughts on that?
I would say right now I have about 50% of my offices who have it. The ones that have it love it.
We love it. We could never go without it.
You hit a button and you can find out, can they have a pan? One of my biggest pet peeves is leaving a patient alone.
Right.
I don't think you should ever get up and walk away and say, let me go get the doctor. Because then you go away, you go to get the doctor, you stop for a drink, you stop at the doctor's office, he's looking at a video on YouTube, and you end up being gone for 5 minutes before you even know you've been gone. Meanwhile, they're sitting there with nothing to do, waiting for you. And, 5 minutes in a dental chair when you're waiting for the dentist to come in seems like 20 minutes to people.
But the thing I like about it the most is how you're going to have cancellations and no-shows. But what I like about it is, you can have 4 ladies up front on the desk and someone gets cancellation and it's for an appointment 10 minutes. And she says, Howard's 10 o'clock and room 8 just canceled. Well, the 3 ladies sitting next to her, they might be talking to a person on the phone with an emergency. Oh, my God, can you come down right now? All
right.
3 hygienists immediately look at the patient and start like, oh, my God, Rick Garofolo, you need to have a filling done. Right after the cleaning, we can move you right to Dr. Farran and have everybody's, a hygienist will get a cancellation, and the other hygienist doing a quadrant root plane curettage, and she just looks down and says, hey, Rick, we done 1 quadrant? You want to just stay another hour and we'll do another one? And then she's right back out, okay, my patient's going to say, it's just so fast. It's lightning fast. So I'm going to ask you more specific about a goal. How do you handle this? Let's say your goal is $4,000, and your 11 o'clock $1,000 crown canceled. And now 11 to 12, that room is empty, and you're supposed to be in there doing a crown. And then an emergency calls, and they could get down there in 45 minutes. But lunch is 12 to 1. Would you say, okay, you just got a cancellation 11 to 1, go in the break room and find something to eat because I just scheduled a crown in your lunch? Some staff would go get a Gracie 1-2 scaler and carve out your frontal cortex, and other staff just think, well, that's part of the job. Or what about this, Rick, specifically? It's my 4 o'clock patient canceled, and we closed at 5, and it was for a crown for $1,000. Now I'm going to miss goal by $1,000, but someone just called, and they got a toothache, but they can't get there till like 4:45 or till 5 o'clock, and you're closed. Do you go home and miss your goal $1,000, or do you go long and say, sorry, we were going to go home at 5, but we got a toothache? So, do you make goal one day at a time, even if it's missing lunch, going home late, or do you make it up the next day?
Absolutely. You stay. I don't know very many doctors who can leave. I don't know any heart surgeons who say, you know what? I'm in the middle of this operation, but it's 11 o'clock. I got to go. I got an 11:45 tea time. I have my golf league at 5:45, and it's 5 o'clock. I got to get out of my scrubs and go. Nobody else does that. For some reason, dentists have become susceptible to the staff whims of, it's 5 o'clock, we have to go. But it's 5 o'clock, we have to go. That doesn't matter. Our job first and foremost is to treat patients. And if it was your mother, would you want them to be told, sorry, we'll see you in the morning? Or would you want them to be told, I'll see you now? Come here as soon as you can get here.
I posted on my Facebook page a couple weeks ago. I was at the park about a month of Sundays ago, and one of the hikers fell down and couldn't get up, and someone called the cell phone, 911, and a fire truck was there immediately. And I told the fireman, I said, you know what? It's a good thing she fell down and needed a fireman, because if she had a toothache and needed a dentist in Phoenix, Arizona, you could find a pound of heroin before you could find a dentist on Sunday. You could probably find an AK-47, a pound of crack cocaine. Finding a dentist on a Sunday, I said, I'm glad you broke your ankle, not your front tooth. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, and that just goes to what, in my opinion, has been dentists allowing the industry to be turned into. I say all the time, we have allowed ourselves to become the flea market of the medical world. Nobody walks up to a neurosurgeon and says, "Hey, I need this $25,000 operation, but I'm paying cash. I'll give you 15. How's that?" Nobody does that. But how many times do you get a patient that walks in and say, "Hey, I need 5 crowns. They're $1,000 a piece. I'll give you 3,500 cash money, and you do them now." It happens all the time because we allow patients to do that. They don't do that to anybody else. You don't even go into Walmart and say, "Hey, I see you want 49 cents a pound for bananas. I'll give you 38 cents a pound. How's that?" But they do it with us because we let them. Because somewhere along the way, dentists stopped thinking about themselves as doctors. And that's what I say all the time. When I teach a seminar and people will say, "Oh, but patients don't expect that," or, I'm introducing myself to a new dentist as, "Hello, doctor. Hello, doctor. How are you?" "Oh, don't call me doctor. My name's Howard." No, it's not. Your name is doctor. You went to school. You earned it. I don't know very many other doctors who will say, "Call me by my first name." For me, it's a respect thing. Once I become a friend, absolutely, I call you by your first name. However, we have to expect to act like medical professionals, and part of that is being on call when a patient needs you. We all used to carry pagers.
I thought it was always fun because on my business card, which I'll hold up, my business card, it's got my home number and my cell phone number to my iPhone and my email address. But you know what? I had 4 boys growing up, and whenever someone called, I'm 3 miles from my office, and I just say, "Boys, Daddy's got a patient having an emergency," and they'd run for the car. And I made it fun. One would get the patient bib on, one would try to find the mirror. Every one of the 4 boys had their task. And then, of course, I'm obese, so after the emergency for a reward, we'd all hit the Dairy Queen, and we'd have a big, Sunday and talk about how we helped that lady and all that stuff. I'm a big fan of one of your posts on Dental Town where you talk about the using proper coding to increase patient benefits in your bottom line. What do you mean when you say stuff like that?
Well, there are a lot of things that we can do in a dental office when we're billing services out. One of the most misused codes that everybody has is that DO-140, which every person in the world calls an emergency exam. It's not an emergency exam. It's a limited. And people use that, and then you have to understand, here's what happens. Insurance companies put a limitation on the number of exams a patient can have a year. They can, in most cases, have 2 exams per year. If I come in February for a recall, you do my Profi and exam, DO-120, I've used 1 exam.
Now, when you say DO, is that D letter O or is that D0140?
It's D0140.
Okay, D0140. Okay.
Right, exactly.
Limited exam. And you can do 2 of those a year.
You can do 2 exams a year. So most people use those 2 exams at their recall. But then you get a patient who walks in the door who has an emergency, and people bill out that D0140. Now, when the patient comes for their second recall, well, you've hit your frequency limitation for exams. You're only allowed 2 per year. Now the patient has to pay out of pocket. The number one reason people stop going to a dentist or look for a new dental office is over money. If we can avoid an issue, we do. I always say there was a code that was made for an emergency. And they tell you right in the code, this is the emergency code. It's 9110.
Is it really 9110?
It really is. That's a palliative treatment.
Oh my God, 9110. I didn't even know that was the code for emergency. Does it have any relationship to the phone called 911?
I don't think so. I think it's just an amazing coincidence, but that's the code. Why would you use a patient's exam frequency, trigger that frequency limitation, when you could just as easily bill for a palliative, which 9110, which actually pays a little more than the exam code and doesn't limit the number of exams that patient can have that year then. You'd bill for the palliative, they're happy, there's nothing out of pocket, there's no added expense of a frequency limitation on a recall, and everything is good. And they're happy and you did it properly. And there are literally probably 100 codes that are so misused or underused that people just need to know what the codes are. You know, there are so many dentists who don't even know the codes, which realistically, you don't have to. You go out to your front desk or you go into your practice management software and you click a button and it says, we did a crown, we did a PFM, or we did a full porcelain. You don't have to know it's a 2740 or a 2752. But somebody in your office has to know this, and they have to know what the guidelines are. And there are so many ways where we can increase a patient's benefit by billing properly. And naturally, the less we can give the patient for an insurance office, the less we can give a patient out of pocket, the more treatment they can accept. You know, I don't care who you are, most people have a limited amount of money. You know, I have a limited amount of money, you have a limited amount of money.
I have a limited amount of money, but my ex-wife doesn't.
Well, there you go. You know, we all have limits, but they may be different limits, but we have to help the patients. That's our job. That's why you have people at your front desk, is to maximize the benefit for your patient. You're actually doing things more legally by doing it the right way and the way you're supposed to than what a lot of these people do. You know, another thing, a lot of people don't know. We get a lot of dentists who will say to me, well, you know, we use the comprehensive exam, that new patient exam code, for every new patient, whether they're in the hygiene schedule or they're on the doctor's schedule. If they're coming in for an emergency as a new patient, we use the new patient exam code. It's not a new patient exam code. It's a comprehensive exam. Are you, if a patient comes in for an emergency, are you doing perio charting on them? Are you recording all the dentition if they have an abscess in your chair, if they're coming in as a new patient on the emergency on the doctor's side? Most offices aren't. But you can't bill for a comprehensive exam if you didn't do perio charting and recording of all the dentition. That's what a comprehensive is. So it's just knowing what the codes are that allow you to bill properly, and by billing properly, you're really maximizing their benefit. You're cutting down on their out-of-pocket.
Hey, Rick, talk about your book. You wrote a book, Driving Your Dental Business, 16 Business Lessons I Learned Teaching My Daughter to Drive. Everyone wants to know, did she ever learn how to drive?
She did. It took a long time, and I will tell you what lesson number 16 is. Lesson number 16 is hire a professional, because that's what I ended up doing. I gave up and hired a driving coach who taught me how to do it.
You know what? I really wish that would be the title of your first online CE course on Dental Town. I wish you would make an online CE course, because I think it's hard for dentists to not know who you are, not see your face, not hear about you. And I think if you did a 1-hour online CE course that this dentist could watch in his office, you know, get a couple pizzas, we all watch you, you teach us something. I think that deconstructs the sales process of going from, I need to hire a consultant, I need help, to, well, who is this guy? And I wish, but talk about your book and promise me, I'm hoping to promise two things for you. Dental Town, we started the podcast section, and the next section coming up is going to be the audio book. And I don't know if you're up for it, but I would love it if you would go send me that book in an audio file and come up in the because they're just what's really crazy about these podcasts is they're multitasking. They're mostly commuting to work. Most of these dentists have an hour commute to work, to or from, and or they do the treadmill or whatever the hell. But they're multitasking and stuff. I would love for that to be an audio book. But tell us, what made you write that book, and what do you talk about that book? What made you write it?
What made me write it was I I've been doing the consulting and been in business management for 20 years, and about 5 years ago, I started doing continuing education classes. I started speaking at dental meetings, and then I moved in from speaking at meetings to doing self-sponsored seminars all over the country. I actually spend about 40 weeks a year on the road, speaking at different dental meetings and doing self-sponsored seminars all over the country. And that has quickly become one of my favorite things to do is teach.
Well, if you want to teach more, you know why you should do an online CE course? Because there's 250 dental societies in America, and they always look for volunteers. And 3 dentists raise their hand. They say, okay, you're in charge of speakers for next year. And they say, okay, we want one from endo and practice management and oral surgery. And the guy in charge of endo, or they don't know who to get. So they go to Dental Town, where all the courses are 1 hour. They'll go to the endo deal, and they'll say, okay, 8 guys give 1 hour. They'll watch all those 8, and it's kind of like your deal. And the guy will say, I really like the 4th one, and then they'll contact him. One guy put up a 1 hour lecture on endo and booked 76 invitations to speak on it. So if you want to speak more, make it so under the practice management, you have an hour, because all those speakers committees, they don't know who these people are, and they're always giving the instructions. And don't bring back, get someone new. Don't have the guy we had last year. Find someone new. So I hope you do it. But what's the low hanging fruit of that book?
The low hanging fruit really is, there are so many business lessons in everyday life. Everywhere you look, there's a lesson to be learned. And that's what I say. The first page of the book is, I spent 6 months trying to teach my daughter how to drive and ended up hiring a professional. But I learned so much more than I taught her spending that time one-on-one with her in the car, being in the passenger seat. When you're in the driver's seat, you get distracted. There's a lot of things going on. There's a million different things to pay attention to. But when you take a step back and you sit on that passenger seat for the first time, since I was 18, nobody has driven me other than me. I'm not a good passenger. And this forced me to give up that power, to take a step back and to look at things almost from above and not be so detail-oriented on every little thing that's going on around me and what's the speedometer say and what's happening there and what's in the mirror and what's over here. I could just watch her, and I could watch how she reacted and get a fresh perspective on it. And that's the big thing. What the biggest point that I want to get across to people, and this is my favorite chapter in the book, is there's a reason the windshield is so big and the rear view mirror is so small. You have to look at where you're going. You have to remember the past. You have to have a little bit of, let me look back and see what worked and what didn't, and maybe what I want to learn and what I don't. You don't learn from history, you're destined to repeat it. But at the same time, you have to focus on where you're going. And that's the most important lesson, I think, for anyone. I talk to people who say, that advice, when I was reading that and I was thinking outside of practice management, I was thinking about my marriage. And we've spent so much time fighting over things that happened 5 years ago, we stopped looking at where we were going and we ended up crashing. It's advice for every aspect of your life. Look at the past, but don't concentrate on it. That's why the windshield's so big and the rearview mirror is so small, because that's where you're supposed to concentrate, is on the future and where you're going, not where you've been.
I'm going to throw a one-liner at you and see how you react to this. There's people out there saying that the bottom line is, if you want to do $1 with a dentistry, you got to present $3 of treatment. There's other people saying, if you present your dentistry right and you present it right, every dollar dentistry you present, you're going to do $1 dentistry. What are your thoughts on you've seen hundreds of different dentists present treatment? Do you what are your thoughts on presenting treatment?
You have to use the tools you have. I agree with, if you present it properly, you present $1 and you do $1. Maybe 95 cents. maybe not a dollar, but I'll take 95 cents out of every dollar every single day. I'm okay with that. It's all in your presentation. I hate when I hear a doctor say, do you want to do this? I don't ask anybody a yes or no question. You have to retrain your mind on how to speak to everyone. I talk to a waitress at a restaurant the same way I talk to my wife, the same way I talk to my clients, the same way I talk to a patient in a client's office. You don't want to ask yes and no questions, and you want to present things the proper way so that they can understand why it's important to get it done. That's the battle. I don't think you have to convince people that you're a good dentist. They're coming to you because they trust that you're a doctor and you know how to do a crown, you know how to do a root canal. They understand that. They need to understand why spending that $350 on their copay for a root canal is more important than going and getting another tattoo or putting a loud muffler on their car. That's what we have to overcome. And by presenting things properly and using all the tools we have at our disposal, you can do that. Use your intraoral camera. I can't tell you how many clients' offices I walk into that they have a camera at every operatory and they're covered in dust. When was the last time you used those? Oh, we haven't used those since they got put in. Why did you buy them? Use those. Put that hole in that patient's tooth up on a 27-inch TV that's huge, so when you walk in the room as the doctor, the patient goes, hey, doc, do you see what's on my tooth? You got to fix that. Make them sell you on how to fix it, because that's what you want. You want them to be driven. And you just have to give the patients a reason to be driven to get the treatment. They know they need it, but there's so many other things that get in our way every day. It's hard to pick what needs to be a priority. It amazes me every day when I walk into dental offices and I hear, well, our patients don't have any money and our patients don't have this and our patients don't have that. If you walked into an emergency room because you fell off a cliff while you're hiking and they say, hey, you know what, you're going to need a CAT scan, and you said, oh, no, I don't have the $2,500 copay for that. Are you crazy? What are they going to do? They're going to kick you out. They're going to say, then you need to leave. If you're not going to get what we need to help you, there's nothing we can do for you. But, we don't do that because we don't want to lose a patient. We don't want to give up a recall.
I agree so much. Like someone comes to the tooth and I'll say, okay, we need to do a root canal and we need to do it right now. Because in my 20 years, I've seen root canals go from pain to swollen to hospitalization.
Right.
We need to, the tooth is coming out right now or we're saving it right now. You need to make a decision. You have an infection and these can go crazy. What do you want to do right now? You want to remove it? You want to save it? I need to know, what do you want to do? And then, so it's that authoritarian voice, it's like, let's do it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I want to ask you this. Some dentists think that if you want to present treatment, you should hire someone to do it. You should get a treatment coordinator. Other dentists say, oh, hell no, I want to do that myself. I'm the doctor. What are your thoughts on the doctor presenting versus a treatment coordinator?
I don't ever want a dentist talking money. Never, ever, ever.
Okay, but why?
Because in a lot of people's minds, the minute a dentist can say, if I say to you, okay, I need a crown, how much is it? You can tell me, oh, it's $1,000. Now you just want my $1,000. You, being the dentist, should talk about you need this because. You need this because I've seen it go from you need a root canal to infection to hospitalization. I've seen it because this can happen. This can happen, it can hurt you, it can cause this, you could lose the tooth, you could end up in the hospital. That's why you're there. Let somebody else worry about the money. The minute you say a crown is $1,000, all they hear in their head is, that doctor wants my $1,000. He must need to make a payment on his kid's college. He must need to buy a new set of tires for his Mercedes. I don't ever want the dentist to be the money person, because then your patients think of you as the money guy. Let somebody at the front desk do that. Let a treatment coordinator do that. Let them talk about money. I tell all my clients, listen, when a patient comes to you and says, hey, doc, how much is a root canal? I don't know, because I don't base my decisions on how much something costs. I base my decisions on what is best for you, the patient, medically, not how much something costs. I don't even want to know how much these things cost. You know, I get a big enough headache knowing how much my bills are. I don't want to do that.
Last question, because we are out of time. We hit the 60-minute mark, and God, that went fast. You're amazing. But last question is, you're also an expert in OSHA and HIPAA compliance. What should a dentist be thinking about that?
Well, that's becoming, specifically HIPAA. OSHA has been big. Last year, OSHA handed out $274 million in citations just to the general industry. OSHA. OSHA did $274 million.
Just in dentistry?
Not just in dentistry, in the general industry, which is no construction, no maritime, just service industries, retail, hospitals.
So are you still a big consulting on that?
We do. I actually was in Virginia 3 weeks ago doing some OSHA compliance consulting. The big thing is, and this is kind of my big push, is all these other ancillary things. And I hear all the time, you see the discussions on Dental Town. These consultants want to do scare tactics. They just want to get our money. They want us to pay them to come in and do it. You believe that up to a certain level. The whole reason I got into OSHA and HIPAA was because I had clients, practice management clients, who got inspected and fined by OSHA and the Office of Civil Rights.
And some lives have been ruined. There were some, I'm not going to mention any names that have been through it up, but there's been some good old boy oral surgeons who weren't doing something right. Next thing you know, they're on national news and they're like testing all their patients for hepatitis and AIDS and all that. And these are just good old boys who weren't dotting the I's and crossing the T's. There wasn't any malicious ignorance or anything like that. They were just doing stuff how they were learned. So
helps you sleep at night. That's all.
So who should you worry about more, OSHA or HIPAA?
Today, I worry about HIPAA more.
And what should they be worried about? What are the low hanging fruit that they're messing up on in that?
Listen, if a hacker can get into the Department of Defense personnel file, what makes you think they can't get into your server where every one of your patients' dates of birth, social security number, address, children's names, that's becoming the big thing now for identity thieves. They're hacking into small business servers and taking kids' social security numbers who are 8, 9, 10 years old. Imagine your 18-year-old son goes to apply for his first credit card and is told, hey, we can't give you this. You've got $150,000 worth of debt that's in default. And it all came because somebody 10 years ago hacked into your dentist's server and stole your identity.
I could see several online courses you're doing for Dental Town. You think you might be up for that, doing that?
Absolutely.
God, I'd take an OSHA, I'd take a HIPAA, I'd take your book. I'm your biggest fan. I really am. I'm a big fan of your posts. And we are completely out of time. We're 3 minutes over time. But I just want to say seriously, dude, I love your post. Thanks for spending an hour with me. You're on the road working hard, and there you are in a hotel room setting up Skyping. I think you're our first guest who Skyped me from a hotel room. And but seriously, thanks for all that you do for dentistry. Thank you for all that you do for Dental Town, and I just had a rocking good time with you today.
Me too. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, have a great day. And I hope. Do you think you'll do that audiobook?
I absolutely will.
I would love that because I'm a cyclist, and everybody that goes on when you're doing a 100-mile bike ride. Guys at the end of the bike ride will sit there and say, I just listened to the whole 6-hour Napoleonic Wars, or I just listened to an entire deal on some history or autobiography. It's really the rage. It's hard to sit down in a chair being an OCD monkey and read a book for 6 hours.
Right.
But if you're going to go on a 6-hour bike ride or a hike, my son, he always likes to do podcasts when he goes on like a 5-mile run. In our day, it was only music on the Sony Walkman, and now it's information. Right. So I'd love to have that audiobook for you. That'd be awesome.
We'll get it over to you.
All right, buddy. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.